Now for the next episode, we're gonna dive deep into the history of sake and understand why and how this beverage is produced now and why it is what it is. So let's enjoy it. Sake has been produced for about 2,000 years, more about 1,000 years where it's somewhere closer to where it's now. The oldest records of a brewery in existence that's still running, it's actually 1141, and this brewery is under 50 plus generations running. A very incredible, deep, rich history about it. There's a few stories I truly enjoy about what history of sake and how it's shaped. So back then, a lot of the sake was cloudy, which is referred to now, a lot of color, and things started shaping this. So to make a premium sake, it was designated at some point that it had to be filtered. So whether it's a fine mesh for filtered clean styles or a coarser mesh for like nigori of soap. There's also another aspect called muroka. So muroka, when you see it on a label, it means that it skipped the charcoal filtration. And this is an amazing story, which, as it was related to me, there was an employee out of a brewery. This dates back to about year 700. This employee gets fired for whatever reason. So he's very disgruntled. He tries to do something to hurt the brewery. He's so angry. So he grabs ashes from the adjacent fire around from the brewery. He grabbed the ashes, threw them in the batch of sake, and left. So the next day, the brewery workers come and see this batch of sake that's clear. They've never seen anything like it. It's like, wow, this is magic. What happened? So they figured out that ashes were thrown in there, and that pretty much started charcoal filtration. Just like you see at home with your Brita filter, filtering your water, same basic idea with the charcoal. So the brewery worker probably went, after he found out, jumped from a bridge, and the brewery actually became really famous and revolutionized the style of sake as is now. Let's talk about Honjozo. So Honjozo, as we spoke about in the previous episode, it's when brewer's alcohol has been added. So this, prior to the Second World War, all sake was made with the 4 ingredients. Then the war comes, tragic times, right? Civilians, troops, the food's running out, you can't feed them. So the government goes and puts a lot of the brewers in a round table, basically, and says, we all need to scratch our heads. We need to do something. All this rice that you guys are using for sake, shochu, other alcohol, needs to be used to feed the civilians and the troops. And truthfully, we still need to drink, because it's what's getting us along from this times of war. So basically, they all scratch their head, they think for a while, brainstorming, and they come up with Honjozo. So as we mentioned, the sake has been brewed, then the distilled alcohol is added, and then is watered down. So this practice pretty much increased the yields. The rice itself was used very minimally, and it kind of became a law that you could only produce Honjozo for this period of time. The ban was lifted, and then the brewers were able to do both styles since they kind of agreed to help in those times of hard times. For the American government, it is called fortified because you added the alcohol to it. But in actuality, the alcohol is added in a small amount after it's been fermented. It affects nothing with the fermentation, and then watered down, so it creates a more focused, brighter style. Another amazing part of history in Japan is the actual masu box. This masu box used to be 1 per person. Every employee would have one back a few hundred years ago. So you would go to work in the morning, bring your box, and then at the end of the day, you would be paid in rice. So your salary was rice. The boss would put the rice here, fill it up, bring it home, get to your wife, and literally put her in the kitchen for your wife. She would clean the rice, she would start cooking it. In that meantime, you rush to your local watering hole or bar with your same box. And you go, and this is called a go. This is 180 mLs. They would fill it up out of a 1.8 liter, which carries 10 goes. And you would drink happily until the rice was ready. You could get back home to your wife, eat, wash your cup, and repeat the next day and call it a day. So nowadays, the masu is used at a number of restaurants. People don't usually drink out of it anymore. Health department is not a huge fan of that one. Base that is wood. But what people do when you go into a local fun spot or some serious places, they'll put the glass or a regular glass in there and overfill your cup as a sign of generosity. So you'll see the sake come out of the glass into the bowl, into another plate that's there. And the process, we pay a lot of attention to this, is you actually grab your glass, you drink out of it with the masu under, and then you pour into there. Don't ever do this, because that is gross. A lot of people have drank out of that cup, and it's dirty. So you pour out of there, I'm assuming it's somewhat clean, and then you keep drinking it. Next, we'll move into the actual process of making sake. Just quite fascinating, so stay tuned.